You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
Hello and welcome back to The Whole Truth podcast. I'm Paul Armstrong. Today's episode focuses on a company with an EV of about $1 million. You heard that correct, $1 million. The company has just had its annual meeting. Shareholders have just approved a placement that's already done. The company's cashed up and it's just completed the acquisition of the Kew Gold Project. Kew is becoming a really hot region in Western Australia. There's some great deposits that are currently in production right next to the E79 ground. E79 has just put the foot on the Kew project. Chief Executive Ned Summerhayes tells us why they like this, and I think it's pretty obvious. It's got a great address, as I said, surrounded by some other very well-known deposits. They already know it shares similar geology with those deposits nearby, and of course, previous drilling and exploration has shown that there is gold there. The question is, how much is there and what grade is it? Ned takes us through what he's going to do to establish what's below the ground, particularly at depth, and also tells us that the company has a project in the Northern Territory where they have bismuth. Bismuth is tipped to be the next hot metal alongside antimony and gallium and those sorts of things. But of course, there's a wet season up there, so they can't drill. So the Kew Gold Project would seem to work beautifully alongside the bismuth opportunity up in the Northern Territory. So he takes us through what they're going to do at Kew and gives us a flavour of what exploration success could look like there. Ned, let's start on a slightly lighter point. The name of this company, E79, I have to say, it sounds to me like it's a 1960s Holden. You're probably going to tell me it's a lot more sophisticated than that, and it comes from the periodic table. Is that right?
I am indeed, yes. It's the atomic number of gold.
So quite appropriate, given that you've just done a deal to secure a gold project in Western Australia.
Indeed.
You haven't done a deal to buy an historic Holden or anything like that.
I haven't got the money for that.
Nothing that graceful. Okay, so you've done this deal to acquire the Kew Gold Project. What do you like about it?
There's an incredible amount of stuff that we like about this project. Probably number one is that it's significantly more advanced than our other projects. It's had a lot of drilling. There's a lot of gold hits on there. In the past, our strategy has been to find new areas of ground to explore on. And so this represents a bit of a change in strategy for us. And then just the location, it's wedged up against West Gold and the Day Dawn goldfields to the north, and then to the south you've got Ramelius. So it's a bit of hot property ground, and it's underexplored, if you can imagine that. So
let's look at that, because it is becoming a hot area. Kew is obviously an historic gold mining area in Western Australia. I know obviously Kalgoorlie gets all the attention for gold, and in fact the first gold in Western Australia was actually found in Halls Creek, right up in the Kimberley, which many of our loyal listeners on the East Coast might not realise. The assumption might have been it was Coolgardie or Kalgoorlie, but of course that's not the case. And then so the Kew always seems to fall in the shadow of Kalgoorlie, but it is a long-standing gold region, and it's getting a lot of attention now. You just touched on a couple of names, so let's explore that, if you pardon the pun, a bit, because around this region there are several operators, several plants.
That's correct. So West Gold have their plant. They've got a number of mines in the area. They're probably the bigger player. And then to the south, you've got Ramelius. So they bought the Break of Day ground from Musgrave Minerals, and they're trucking that down to Mount Magnet, where they've obviously got a massive...
So the Break of Day ground, as you say, Ramelius bought that from Musgrave some time ago. The Break of Day geology is what you're hoping is or expect to be repeated at your Kew project. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So
you're looking for a Break of Day lookalike, as they say.
We're probably looking for a Great Fingal lookalike,
which is the West Gold plant,
which is the West Gold project. So that was discovered about 130 years ago. Outcropping, incredible production, 1.2 million ounces at 19.5 grams per tonne. That sits about 3 kilometres away from the ground, and our tenements abut those tenements. And basically, it's sitting in a dolerite, and that dolerite has been known for years, but it's only really
what's the significance of that, sitting in a dolerite?
The significance of the dolerite is it fractionates and provides a number of different rheologies and geochemistries for the gold fluid to interact with. You get grain size differences, you get geochemical contrasts.
So it's a fertile rock setting for gold.
100%. It's a fertile host for gold.
It's the sort of thing that you geologists get all hot and sweaty about.
Very much, very much.
Right, okay. So you've got the right setting. It's a setting very similar to or the same as the West Gold setting, which so you tick those boxes.
Yep.
The key question is there gold on your ground?
There is gold on our ground. And so the big kind of key driver in terms of discovery up there is close space gravity. West Gold have just done it, and for the first time, they've basically worked out why all their deposits sit where they sit in the dolerite. They've always known the dolerite's good, but just not what was putting them into the dolerite. And it's these cross-cutting structures which are mappable.
So this was drilled how long ago?
Yeah, it's been mined for over 100 years.
So it's well established. So what we're talking about here, Ned, is this a case of a classic brownfields gold exploration story? It's been drilled, it's been mined. You know you've got a mineralised system on your hands.
Well, we're a bit early stage from that. So certainly West Gold, and with that gravity, what they've been able to do is, one, unify why their multiple deposits are where they are, but two, predict where the new ones will be. That's exactly the same technique that was used earlier at Break of Day. They found the starlight basalt as the good host, the titanium-rich basalt there.
By looking for the same geological setting that West Gold have got. In
terms of a prospective host, a preferred host, and then a cross-cutting structure.
Right.
So our ground has the Great Fingal dolerite. We've got the southern extension of it. We've got titanium-rich basalt, and we've got evidence of the cross-cutting structures, which you can only really map in the gravity data.
So has this area actually been drilled, or?
It certainly has been drilled, and there's a number of good drill holes, but the average drill hole depth is 42 metres, and only 2% of the drill holes are deeper than 100 metres. And that's really significant because at the West Gold ground, Great Fingal, that was found 130 years ago, but Golden Crown, the underground 700 metres away, that was found 100 years later, and they didn't find it because it didn't outcrop. So it only starts being mineralised at 100 metres in depth.
So why did the drilling stop at 40-odd metres on your ground?
Well, the main period of exploration in our ground was in the 1990s in a declining gold environment. And so the prevailing wisdom was shallower gold is better,
and
cheaper.
If it's too deep, it's not going to be profitable at those gold prices.
100%,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know it is mineralised.
Yes.
At least within the first 40 metres. But the big question is, do you repeat the West Gold story by having a deeper underlying ore body?
Look, that's the entire exploration strategy.
That's the thesis.
That's built on that. So some of the results that we have, probably the highlight is 13 metres at 2.2. That's totally in fresh rock, and it ends to end of hole. So it only stops because the drilling stopped.
And at what depth was that?
That's at about 112 metres.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of the key. That's in a project called ADA. It's sitting right on a titanium-rich basalt. That is analogous to Break of Day that you mentioned before. There's 16 metres at 1.53 in the supergene above it. And so in this part of the world, the supergene is easier to target than the primary because it's larger and more dispersed. So we'll use air core, nice and cheap, cover as much ground as we can, find the supergene, and from there use the RC to do the deeper drilling to find the higher grade.
So you just announced this deal. You just come from the annual meeting, we should say, from the E79 annual meeting. Shareholders have just rubber stamped this deal.
Yep.
Obviously keen to get their hands on it. So now you're free to get into this. So what are you going to do? You've obviously got smoke everywhere. You've got shallow gold, and not quite so shallow gold as well, a bit deeper. The question is, does it continue at depth? How much have you got? What do you do next? Yeah, so there's quite a number of prospects over the ground, all in kind of various stages of some high grade and some early stage stuff. Really, the key is gravity, getting that done as early as possible. A geophysical survey to try to identify what's going on 200-300 metres below the ground.
Yeah, that's correct. And so the contracts are all signed for that. We're next in line. They'll come in. It's a couple of weeks' worth of data collection, a couple of weeks' worth of data processing. If we can, we'll start that this year and come.
So you're looking for big anomalies.
We're looking for the cross-cutting structures that go through the prospective preferred hosts. Yeah,
And that's where the theory is. That's where the gold should be.
Yeah, so the cross-cutting structure simply opens up the ground and allows an amazing amount of fluid to come up through.
Creates a vector.
Yes, exactly.
So you'll do that maybe the end of this year, perhaps after the Christmas break.
That's correct.
And that will then give you the locations to drill.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be able to look at some of the drilling that we already have. We already know Chloe, where we've got 4 metres at 6.96 at depth, and shallow 8 metres at 4.15. That sits right on one of these structures, interpreted to come direct.
So it support your thesis about the intersection of these structures.
Yes, and it also propagates south directly from Yellow Taxi, which is a mine from Westgold, mine from 2018, about 40,000 ounces.
Right. Now, obviously money, this is going to cost money. We mentioned the annual meeting, shareholders have just approved the placement. So what's the financial position now?
The financial position is looking very good. We've recently done a capital raise that was addressed in the annual meeting, and that gives us about $4.5 million in cash to go out and start exploring. There's going to be a lot of news flow. All the activities we're doing are fairly.
What's your market cap?
It's about 5.8 million.
So you've got an EV of what? $1 million.
Yep.
I mean, it's about as leveraged as you can get.
Yep.
And now going back to this region, because this is obviously a key part of any investor's consideration. It used to be, the phrase used to be, he who has the plant is king in a region. You've got the plant and you control it. But there's been a change, I think, in recent times. He who has the dirt, he who has the ore is now king. I mean, you've got several plants around you that you would think would be happy to take good feed.
Yeah, 100%.
So you don't need to establish a standalone operation. You don't need 2 million ounces here.
No, we don't. Anything that we can find that can be dug up can be add value straight away.
Now, getting ahead of ourselves here, but do you envisage that you would have a standalone operation, or do you think really the name of the game here is to establish enough inventory that you can turn it into fast cash flow?
There's a number of ways to go about that. It really depends on the size of the thing you find. But with all that infrastructure in the region, it just lowers that barrier to get the gold out of the ground and monetize it.
Yeah, there's an increasing attraction to the concept of being able to dig something up, sell it to the bloke next door and take the money. And the times associated with building a plant, the approval process now is so long in this state that it's another reason why people are so keen to say, look, I'll sell it to you, you've got the plant. And the discovery rates are going down. It's harder to find the gold to feed the plant, so it makes sense that everyone doesn't have their own plant, and there's some sort of acting in concert there in terms of processing ore.
Definitely, it's a very attractive proposition.
Right. Now, it would be remiss of us if we didn't say that this deal came after. This is not your only project, so you've still got the project in the Northern Territory, the bismuth. Worth noting for our listeners, of course, that bismuth is widely tipped to be one of the next hot so-called critical metals, alongside the likes of antimony, gallium and those things. Bismuth isn't something that Australia's been very well known for, but it does occur in the Northern Territory.
Yeah, that's correct. So we've got some ground in the MacArthur Basin. The MacArthur Basin isn't a known bismuth area. The mineralisation, in terms of outcrop mineralisation that we've mapped, this project has never been drilled. It's got a copper-gold bismuth flavour to it. And copper-gold bismuth is Tennant Creek. That's the fluid that came through Tennant Creek. And so it's not a style of mineralisation that's been looked for in the part of the Northern Territory that we are. So we're not too far from the MacArthur River Mine, one of the world's largest accumulations of lead, silver, zinc. And so that's what everyone's been exploring for. So it was a real eye-opener to find bismuth up to 9% in our rock chips.
Right. So what are you doing about that?
So we're going through the processes to undertake drilling. The heritage surveys have been undertaken, and the drill rig, it's now the wet season there, so we'll come back to that at the end of the
That's the beauty of having these two projects now, isn't it? Because obviously in the top end, as they say, drilling is very seasonal and you can't get in there for months at a time. So the Q project gives you that opportunity to keep the exploration going virtually year round. Yes,
100%. And because we've got that, couple of months delay until the wet season finishes, we can devote all our attention to Q.
Great. Well, it's certainly something that the value of the company is absolutely negligible, isn't it? It's about as low as it gets. So you've got that leveraged position here to a brownfields gold exploration project in one of the hot regions of Western Australia at a time of a record gold price.
Yeah, and as a junior, it's really hard to get ground in that area, and we can't wait to explore it.
Well, we'll keep an eye out. Obviously, the next thing is the results from the gravity survey, and that'll take you hopefully to the hot spots, and you'll be drilling early next year.
Probably mid next year.
Yeah, by the time you get all the results in and get a rig on the ground
and get the heritage surveys and do all the things.
The market might get a bit excited though if the gravity survey comes up with some good targets.
Definitely, I'll get excited
because you will be able to then look at those results, and if they're similar to what gravity surveys are telling you at these deposits are in the region, then you have to say the outlook's pretty good.
100%.
Yeah, great. All right, Ned, thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.